This is Y News with Angelo.
Let me just tell everybody that I have declared martial law for Mindanao.
Good evening. The Philippine National Police formally submits to President Rodrigo Duterte their position paper recommending the extension of martial law in Mindanao. Mon Hokson tells us why.
The Philippine National Police cites proliferation of loose firearms, particularly in Marawi and Lanao del Sur, as the one reason for recommending the extension of martial law. This is in line with the PNP's submission of position paper based on their enforcement perspective and reports received.
We have to account all the loose firearms muna bago natin siguro pwedeng ilip ang martial law.
Another reason is the alleged support of narco-politicians to the Maute terror group.
Yung mga identified na mga narco-politicians who were believed to be supporting the cause of the Maute group are still at large. We still have to account them. Hulihin muna natin sila.
The PNP leaves the period of the extension to the President's decision, but it strongly recommends that the whole of Mindanao be still under the martial rule. De La Rosa believes the President's statement that the strife in Marawi will end within 10 to 15 days. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines has also submitted their position paper, but did not give any details on their recommendation. The PNP sees that once the conflict is over, the rehabilitation process in Marawi City will pose a great challenge as the place is heavily damaged by the conflict between military and the Maute group. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front signed an agreement supporting the immediate ratification of a new draft of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, vow to further strengthen the campaign to make the people understand the importance of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL. Earlier, a joint communications plan was signed between GPH implementing chair for Bangsamoro Irene Santiago and Chairman Mohager Iqbal of the MILF. Under this agreement, the government and MILF will have a single mission and manner in making the public understand the BBL. They believe it will help urge lawmakers to pass the proposed law. This has been the third time the government and the MILF reach an agreement, which both sides see as another milestone.
At least two milestone agreements have already been signed by the two parties. First was the terms of reference for the peace implementing panel, and very recently, last month, the two parties have also signed the protocol of cooperation on anti-illegal drug operation and related activities in the MILF areas.
We hope that the bill is passed by the first quarter of 2018. 120 days after that, we should hold the plebiscite. After it is ratified, the arm is dissolved, and the Bangsamoro Transition Authority.
Iqbal and Santiago hope that the BBL will soon be passed, especially since President Rodrigo Duterte and Senate President Aquino Pimentel are themselves hail from Mindanao and understand the situation of Filipinos there. It can be recalled that President Duterte mentioned in his previous State of the Nation address, or SONA, that he would support the passage of the new draft BBL. The BBL is a law that would form the Bangsamoro entity that would replace the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM. It is expected to resolve the problems of the Bangsamoros in southern parts of the Philippines. The previous administration had pushed for its passage but failed following the botched Mamasapano encounter that led to the deaths of 44 PNP staff members. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte announced his commitment to support the legislation of the Bangsamoro Basic Law after it was endorsed to him in Malacanang Palace this afternoon. Asher Cadapan Jr. is in Manila to tell us why live. Yes, Asher, go ahead.
Yes, Diego, a significant step forward in our quest to end centuries of hatred, mistrust, and injustice. This was expressed by the President upon the turnover of the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL, to his office. The BBL will be the basis of the Bangsamoro entity to be established and to replace the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. It will also set the division of the minerals, power between the government and the Bangsamoro, and finish the decades-long violence in Mindanao. It took 3 months and 10 days before the Bangsamoro Transition Commission has turned over the proposed BBL to the Chief Executive.
But may I say to you, my brother, more that I commit to support in front of everybody my covenant with you that I will support and husband this instrument as it goes in the legislature for its consideration.
Legislation of BBL will take time, but President Duterte assured he will try to expedite the process with the help of Senate President Aquino Pimentel III and House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez for its immediate consideration before the year ends. And that's the latest here in Malacanang. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr., reporting live from Manila.
Suspected members of the Abu Sayyaf Group or ASG kidnapped 5 construction workers in Patikul, Sulu last Saturday. The victims were identified as Josel Adanza, Jung Guerrero, Jenly Miranda, and Moy and Jason Ramos, all from Zamboanga City. Authorities are still determining where the victims are brought. Meanwhile, the Zamboanga City government stands firm against the paying of ransom money to the bandits in exchange for the release of their victims.
And negotiations are done through authorized agencies. This morning, we visited the families concerned. CSWD made available some assistance for them.
Thousands of workers, farmers, urban poor, and indigenous people plan to march near the Batasan Pambansa on the day of President Rodrigo Duterte's second State of the Nation address. Leslie Longboan tells us why.
Former Congressman Teddy Casino of Bagong Alyansang Makabayan says the People's Sauna they are planning to stage on July 24 will have a different mood from the first sauna of President Duterte, where many expressed optimism hoping for change. He adds different groups will report the real state of the nation in the People's Sauna.
Mas protesta. Mas pagpapakita ng pagkadismaya at galit ang makikita natin sa State of the Nation address. At ito ay dapat tugunan ni Pangulong Duterte.
Militant groups are dismayed over what they say are failed promises and issues that the president was not able to address. These include land reform, an end to labor contractualization, pursuing the peace process, release of all political prisoners, a stop to the militarization of communities, among others. They also call on the president to lift the martial law in Mindanao and stop bombings in Marawi. Despite this, Casino says they have no plans to ask the president to step down and instead give him the chance to bring about change.
Kinikilala din natin na 1 taon pa lang ang Pangulong Duterte sa pwesto, may 5 taon na siya at marami pa siyang pwedeng gawin kung gugustuhin niya. No, kaya nga sa kabila ng protesta, tayo ay nanghahamon din at naniningil kay Pangulong Duterte na tuparin niya yung mga pangako.
Meanwhile, the groups hope that the president will face them and listen to their call. Leslie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte got the highest approval rating among top government officials based on the latest survey of Pulse Asia. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Many Filipinos remain glad with the leadership of President Rodrigo Duterte based on the latest survey of the Pulse Asia research. Among high-ranking government officials, the president got the highest approval rating of 82%. He was followed by Senate President Aquino Pimentel, who got 62%. Vice President Leni Robredo with 61%, Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno with 48%, and lastly, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez who got 43%. Malacanang meanwhile says the survey results is not just due to the leadership of the president, but also because of the cooperation of other government agencies.
It's not just him, although he stands is out front, but he will credit it also to the participation of the rest of the cabinet and the different agencies.
In line with this, Secretary Abella has defended the chief executive after his latest rape comment drew flack. Abella says the president's remark is not a joke, but a form of mockery. The palace spokesman is also confident that the public would understand the president's manner of speech, further noting that the public's trust reflects to his approval ratings.
The president is more than just jokes. The majority of the people, especially the masses, really get him. As far as the public is concerned, and they're the ones who really need, who really approve of him. For that, I think that's exactly why, as your question, how come there's such a high approval rating? Simply because of that he gets them and they get him.
Meanwhile, Vice President Leni Robredo has expressed gratitude to the public's continuous trust to her. She says it only proves the recognition to the performance of the Vice President in the previous years. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
President Rodrigo Duterte's rating among environmental groups has drastically dropped after a year in office. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Based on the result of the survey conducted by the Ecological Challenge for Change Coalition in a year after the Duterte administration took office, President Rodrigo Duterte's approval rating marked a huge drop of 70% in 2017. Respondents in the 2017 Eco Challenge report were 37 environmental groups surveyed for almost a month. The group argued that Duterte received positive 60% net approval rating when he won the election in 2016. It went down to negative 10%. The president received 60% approval from all the respondents for supporting the closure and suspension of 28 mining sites in the country during the term of former DNR Secretary Gina Lopez.
I think we should give him a chance, but I think the environmental group should be on the lookout.
Meanwhile, Duterte got the lowest rating on the issue of the alleged extrajudicial killing of environmentalists. 17 were already killed on the first year of his term. It surpasses the average incidence of killing against environmentalists during the term of former President Arroyo and Aquino, which recorded 4 and 11 respectively.
Marami pang ibang issue labas sa pagmimina na nakakaapekto doon sa kalikasan at ito ay hindi nabibigyan ng kinaukulang pansin ng administrasyon.
The group is also satisfied with the performance of President Duterte in addressing concerns in fishing industry such as the return of fishermen in Panatag Shoal and the thousands of hectares of fish pen dismantled in Laguna Lake. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A group of Transport Network vehicle service drivers has launched an online petition and signature campaign which they plan to present to LTFRB and President Rodrigo Duterte. Grace Casin will tell us why.
More than 50,000 netizens have expressed their support to a group of drivers of Transport Network Vehicle Service who launched a signature campaign and online petition last Friday. The petition states the concern of TNVS drivers over the plan of Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board of banning and apprehending TNVS without franchise starting July 27.
Nananawagan po kami sa LTFRB. Sana naman po i-list nyo na po yung suspension regarding sa pag-release ng mga PA po. Dahil po dito, marami pong pamilya ang inyong matutulungan.
According to Uber driver Rene, LTFRB still refuses to grant him franchise despite completing the required documents.
Nag-require sila ng ganito dapat ang gawin, ganun-ganun. Inilakad namin, kinumpleto namin, bandang uli, titigil nila. Tapos ngayon, tatanggalin na totally or ibabawal nila. Siyempre, sa side namin, masakit sa amin.
Passengers also expressed their concerns and state why they prefer to ride Transport Network service as compared to ordinary taxis.
Hassle nun kasi, syempre sa Grab tsaka sa Uber, isang text lang nandiyan na sila. So pag nawala yun, Diyos ko, makikipagsiksikan na naman ulit kami sa bus.
It's not helpful if Uber yung tatanggalin nila, tapos taxi naman is namimili naman ng pasahero.
As expected, taxi drivers are in favor to limit the operation of TNVS.
Nabukasan kami sa ulo eh. Mga Uber, okay sa amin yun, pabor sa amin yun. Magaganda kahit paano yung kita namin, babalik ka kahit paano yung sa dati.
Of its part, LTFRB maintains to strictly implement the law. The agency also warns TNV services who still accept applications.
The board gave both TNCs the opportunity to comply to show their good faith. In the event that they refuse or fail to comply, then enforcement is in order. The board will not be influenced nor will it succumb to pressure.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Public utility drivers and operators conducted another protest against the jeepney modernization program of the Transportation Department. Joan Nano will tell us why.
Public utility drivers and operators parked their vehicles today to protest against the planned program of the Department of Transportation, which they say will negatively affect their livelihood. Under DOTR's modernization program, hybrid or electronic jeepney models will replace the old units. But the drivers and operators insist that it will be better to just rehabilitate old jeepneys instead of buying a new one which is worth 1 million pesos. They are also seeking an audience with President Rodrigo Duterte to discuss their concerns.
Kung hindi po sila natitinag dito sa pinagkita namin lakas at pwersa, lalo po kami hindi po titinag dito sa lamang ito dahil ito po ay papatay sa aming kabuhayan.
Despite their transport strike, travel has not been paralyzed as many jeepney drivers still choose to operate. Based on LTFRB's monitoring, from the 62 vehicles on standby, only 7 were dispatched. About 750 passengers were also given free rides. Meanwhile, the LTFRB plans to file complaints against the leader of Transport Group Piston, George San Mateo, due to his repeated conduct of transport strike despite dialogues. Last June, DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade allowed the start of the PUV modernization program. It targets to phase out old jeepney units by year 2020. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Next on Y News. The Duterte administration is urged to start energy exploration in Philippine rice.
The Department of Health plans to launch a name and shame campaign against LGUs as soon as the nationwide smoking ban takes effect on July 22.
Y News will be right back. Some senators believe that the reason behind the reopening of the investigation of the 2015 Mamasapano encounter that left 44 members of the PNP Special Action Force dead is not enough. Nel Marie Buhok explains why.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is pushing for an executive session on the plan of Senator Richard Gordon to reopen the probe on the 2015 Mamasapano clash.
Para hindi rin magkaroon ng duplication sa gagawin natin, ay maganda mapag-usapan muna ng mabuti ng mga senador kung saan pa yung pagkukulang.
As for Senator Sani Angara, it would be more prudent if Senator Gordon will consider the result of the first Senate investigation on the incident.
Pero sa amin naman, sana i-consider niya na i-adapt din niya yung, kung hindi man yung findings ng PO committee, baka yung, at least yung testimony. I think nagawa na yun in the past.
Angara also does not see any reason to indict former President Benigno Aquino III on the death of the SAF-44.
Ano yung proximate cause, di ba? Homicide through reckless imprudence. Hindi naman si Pinay yung bumaril nung di ba? Hindi rin siya nag-utos sa mga nasa Mamasapano na sila yung bumaril nung sundalo.
Senator Gordon had earlier manifested his inclination to invite former President Aquino in the reopening of the probe of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights on the Mamasapano encounter. Senator Gordon floated his plan following the decision of the ombudsman to charge the former president, former PNP Chief Alan Purisima, and former SAF Director Getulio Napeñas on the said case. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
President Rodrigo Duterte reacts to the charges that will be filed against former President Benigno Aquino III on Mamasapano incident by the Office of the Ombudsman. The chief executive calls it, the charging of the former president, silly, and it will only end up in vain.
So, ibig sabihin, mukhang kulang yung charges kay President kay...
Hindi kulang. Wala, mali lahat.
Last Friday, Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales ordered the filing of criminal charges against Aquino, particularly usurpation of authority and violation of Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Also to be charged over the incident are former PNP Chief Alan Purisima and former SAF Director Getulio Napeñas. The Sandiganbayan cancels the first day of trial of former Senator Jing Estrada's plunder case today. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Sandiganbayan 5th Division Associate Justice Rafael Lagos reprimanded the lawyer of former Senator Jing Estrada for submitting a very late motion. Such delayed the trial of the Estrada's plunder case, according to the magistrate. The motion filed by the defense is questioning the draft pre-trial order. The camp of Estrada also questioned the prosecution because of not giving them a copy of the prosecution's document to be used in the trial.
The prosecution has been submitting documents which are not originals. Lahat yun panay Xerox copies.
Meanwhile, the lawyer of Estrada also filed a new motion requesting the court to allow him to be confined for 2 days in a hospital due to some complications in his blood tests.
The doctor advised me to undergo colonoscopy, up and down, gastro and gastroscopy, tsaka colonoscopy. Wala naman, meron lang mga elevated blood tests na nakita. May abnormalities din.
Estrada faces plunder charges for allegedly receiving 183 million kickbacks from his Priority Development Assistance Fund or PDAF. He is currently detained at the PNP Custodial Center in Camp Crame. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The details of the State of Assets, Liabilities and Network or SALN of lawmakers who have to undergo a new Congress committee before making it public. Congressman Reynaldo Umali, who will chair the new committee, says the SALN of all lawmakers who have to go through them before approving any request for its copy. Umali did not explain why such a process need to take place. He says the rules for the new process might be finished in the next 2 weeks.
Bago yung SALN committee at saka wala pang rules. Hindi, may issue pero at the end of the day, I think meron din naman. Basta na-adapt lang yung rules, then it will be easier for us. Then it will be free-flowing, it will be automatic.
President Rodrigo Duterte hits back at Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales after her criticisms against the president over criminals and drug addicts. Rosalie Cos explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte responds to the statement recently of Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales, which alleged the president of encouraging people to kill drug addicts. The president said there is no law that prohibits him to warn criminals and drug addicts. The president made the statement after he led the oath-taking ceremony of his appointees in other organizations.
Abogada naman sana ito. Now, Ombudsman Morales, find me a law which says I cannot threaten criminals with death. Find me a law which would bar me from saying I will destroy you if you destroy my country. Because if you can do that, I will step down tomorrow. Bigay mo lang sa akin. Ang bunganga mo kasi, do not be the conscience of the community.
The president also reiterated the worst of the problems the country is facing because of illegal drug operations that has now recurred inside the New Bilibid prison. He also questions the office of the ombudsman if it does not have any taint of corruption.
Ayusin mo yung ombudsman mo, kala mo, santo kayo dyan. Do not play God and shut up. Wala ka namang batas, ibigay mo sa akin.
The brother of Ombudsman Morales is the father-in-law of President Duterte's daughter, Davao City Mayor Inday Duterte. Meanwhile, President Duterte also warns those who are criticizing his government's campaign against illegal drugs.
Wala talagang katapusan na ito. So I expect them to criticize me again. But I will not take it sitting down. Noon, sinisikmura ko kasi presidente nga, you behave. So, taguin mo yung pagkatao mo talaga. But if you do that, you bring the worst in me. Bring out the worst in me, actually.
Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The House of Representatives will support the allocation of bigger funds for the infrastructure projects of the Duterte administration. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Lower house lawmakers pinpoint 4 priority legislations for the second regular session of the 17th Congress. House Deputy Speaker Gwendolyn Garcia says they will initially focus on passing the 2018 national budget and on allocating bigger funding to infrastructure projects of the administration.
This is very crucial as the Duterte administration marks on the most massive infrastructure program. The motto has been build, build, build. And such a massive infrastructure undertaking will need the support of a budget.
The House also plans to pass a supplemental budget for the rehabilitation of Marawi City. It also identifies the charter change and federalism as among the priority legislation in the coming regular session. While no bill has been filed yet, the lawmakers set to push for legalizing civil unions of same-sex couples or of heterosexual couples who wish to cohabitate but are not yet ready to get married. This following House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez statements that he wants to provide protection and rights to live-in couples.
We have to address this. This is a changing reality and has become a growing necessity, a civil union. The civil union bill will also govern property rights, custodial rights over children, and adoption rights.
The lawmakers, however, clarified that they will hear all sides as this is expected to be a controversial measure that might earn the ire of religious groups.
Panukalang batas na ito ay isang panukala pa lamang. Kung ano ang nakalagay sa panukalang batas, ito ay hindi pa ang batas. Ibig sabihin nito ay pag-uusapan pa ito sa committee level at pag-uusapan pa ito sa plenaryo.
Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
A senator believes that the government should immediately start the energy exploration in Philippine Rise. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
The Senate resumes deliberations for the establishment of Benam Rice Development Authority. The said separate agency will be under the National Economic Development Authority that will lead the research for the development of the Philippine rice. According to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Economic Affairs, the said proposal may move forward after the State of the Nation address of President on July 24.
Dahil request ng Coast Guard and ng DND ay magkaroon rin sila ng temporary facilities or permanent facilities in Philippine rice.
The senator also appeals to the government to immediately start the energy exploration, although the bill is still pending in Congress.
Yung exploration, immediately dapat gawin na yun dahil sa ngayon wala talagang exploration na nangyayari dyan. Kung meron man, pakonti-konti.
The million-hectare undersea region is believed to be rich in natural gas deposits. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Department of Health is studying the possibility of launching a name and shame campaign against local government units as soon as the nationwide smoking ban takes effect. Rosa Licos tells us why.
The Executive Order Number 26, or the nationwide smoking ban of President Rodrigo Duterte, is set to take effect on July 22. Health Secretary Pauline Jean Obial says the primary implementers of the new policy are the local government units, or LGUs, and national agencies like the Philippine National Police, MMDA, and DOH. LGUs are tasked to ensure that no one will smoke in public conveyances. To ensure the strict enforcement of the EO, the Health Department is considering to launch a name and shame campaign targeting LGUs that will fail to implement the policy.
We are ready to explore that idea and also rewarding those that have fully implemented the 100% smoke-free environments.
The Health Secretary admits it will be difficult to implement the EO26, particularly the provision requiring the designation of indoor areas in all establishments.
The problem is it's very difficult to comply with the executive order, particularly if an establishment will put up an indoor designated smoking area. So we're advising establishments to actually, hopefully, just establish outdoor designated smoking areas because it's easier to comply with that.
Despite this, the government is still hoping that everyone will follow the new rule. The DOH has once again reminded the public of the penalties for violating the smoking ban, like the imposition of 500 to 10,000 pesos and imprisonment of not more than 30 days, depending on the decision of the court. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development admits it could not give corresponding services and benefits to the persons with disabilities sector. Maki Libradilla tells us why.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development is bent on centering its attention in gathering data on persons with disabilities in the country. The DSWD says that as the Philippine population balloons, the number of PWDs also increase. DSWD Undersecretary Maluto Ralbe Harabe admits that the department still do not have complete information on those who have disabilities. This, she admits, is why they could not give sufficient services to the PWDs.
Iba ang pangangailangan ng ating mga kapatid na mga bulag o kapatid nating mga lumpo. Dapat doon din nakaangkla yung mga programa at serbisyo nating pwedeng malikha.
This time, however, the DSWD sought the help of the Philippine Statistics Authority and the National Council on Disability Affairs, or NCDA, in collecting the necessary data. As the completion of their data gathering activities is yet to be determined, the DSWD will temporarily use the information that agencies like the DOH and TESDA initially have. The NCDA believes that the lack of complete information is not a hindrance for them to give the PWDs the necessary benefits such as education, job opportunities, and discount on goods and services.
Hindi naman batayan na wala kang data para hindi ka kumilos kung ano ang hinihingi na may kapansanan sa isang ahensya.
The DSWD says the data gathering process is taking too long because of the expenses involved in it. As of now, the PWDs will have to make do with the limited services and benefits the DSWD can offer. Maki Libradilla, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Former DSWD Secretary Dinky Soliman is worried about a news she received that the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program will end. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Former DSWD Secretary Dinky Soliman said around 10 million students will possibly be affected if the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, or 4Ps, will be ended.
Pero ang pinangangambahan nila, tahasan silang sinabihan na ihinto na ang pantawid sa 2019. Yan ay hindi ayon sa pangako ni Duterte na itutuloy niya ito.
Soliman said the program is designed until 2022 or 2023 for the poor students to graduate. Soliman is the secretary of DSWD when the 4Ps was launched during the term of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and it was continued during the term of former President Benigno Aquino III.
At ang mamamayang mismong nagbebenepisyo, nagsabi na mabisa ito sa pagtulong para putulin ang minamanang kahirapan sapagkat ito nga ho ay nagbibigay ng edukasyon at ng kalusugan para sa mga bata.
Yung mga eskwelahan na mataas ang poverty at mataas din yung dropout rate, nung mga mabigyan sila ng 4-piece, nanatili yung attendance sa school. No?
For each part, DSWD said they have no plan to end the 4-piece. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Labor groups from various regions protesting against contractualization are still camping out in front of the Department of Labor and Employment. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
It was in July 10 when the Southern Tagalog and Mindanao-based labor coalition, Liga ng mga Manggagawa para sa Regular na Hanap Buhay, began to camp out in front of the main office of the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE. Their number further increased this morning as other labor groups from various parts of Luzon arrived. The 400 protesters say they will stay there until July 19 to call for the total prohibition of contractualization. Antoinette, the Secretary General of Liga, says she's fed up being victimized by the wrong practice of contractualization. In 6 years, she had been a contractual employee in a huge electronics company. They are among those who will join the massive protest during the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte to call for the end in contractualization in the country.
Kay Secretary Bello po, yung kanyang inilabas na DO174 na sabi niya ay irregular ang mga manggagawa sa agency at maganda daw ito sa mga manggagawa. Nangyari po sa Southern Tagalog ay imbis na regularisasyon ay malawakang tanggalan.
On the other hand, DOLE Undersecretary Joel Maglunsod says the regularization of workers will be slowly implemented. In fact, Maglunsod says many companies have vowed to regularize their employees after the implementation of DO174 in the country. He reiterates that the president is honest to the promises he made to workers during his meeting with them last May.
Pinamaganda yung campaign against contractualization, at least may na-regularize tayo na mga manggawa na close to 60,000. Din madagdagan pa yan. Gusto talaga ng presidente natin na mawala na yon para magtulungan na. Kasi mandate niya yun nung Mayo 1.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Authorities believe that the third Metrowide shake drill is a success. Joe Anano will tell us why.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority today convenes with the commanders of the 4 assigned quadrants and coordinators of the local government units for the evaluation of the 4-day Metrowide earthquake drill. The quadrant commanders presented their report on their performance and on how the respective areas responded during the shake drill. The reports claim that the entire drill was done successfully and that there have been a big development on the quick response of different rescue groups. The quadrant commanders, however, admit the communication system remains to be the major challenge during the drill. This despite what MMDA Chairman Danilo Lim had claimed on his initial assessment last Friday that there is a big development on their communication system in this year's Metrowide earthquake drill. In today's presentation, quadrant commanders say that relaying messages to the barangays had been a problem in some areas. That is why some activities took longer period to be completed.
Naging effective naman, kaya lang medyo hindi talagang gaya na ibang na talagang Pero nakaka-communicate kami. Sa drill, nakikita natin yung gap. Nakikita natin saan tayo nagkamali.
Nevertheless, Chairman Lim emphasizes that even the earthquake drill was not done perfectly. The important thing is that they were able to identify and meet the gaps for them to adjust on the things that they still have to improve.
Areas where we had improvement, gaya ng nabanggit kanina, definitely communication. Kumpara sa previous exercises, it's not perfect, pero nag-work yung mga sistema natin. Pangalawa, while before, walang participation yung barangays natin, di ba? Ang mga exercises noon nasa LGU level lang sa taas, sa mga siyudad. This time, napakaraming ginawang mga scenarios na inject na mga sitwasyon sa barangay level. And very active yung mga barangay participants natin.
MMDA explains that it is very important for the public to understand the things that they need to do in case a strong earthquake hits Metro Manila for their own survival. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Coming up, Epidemic prevention is now in full swing in northeast China after the recent disaster.